Pippa Middleton is now 41 years old and spills the beans to everyone. The royal family does not want the public to hear the truth about why her marriage to James Matthews ended, but she is finally telling them. She has been Princess Kate's demure, ever-present minder for a long time. Pippa never saw the betrayal that shattered their relationship, hidden behind the flawless smiles, lavish weddings, and meticulously planned outfits. What James did to her wounded her deeply, but it also shattered her faith, her identity, and her future aspirations. It was terrible, it was personal, and it devastated her in ways she couldn't have imagined. Why did Pippa decide to end her story with the man everyone had hoped would be the happy ending? Her hard-won reputation is in jeopardy, and the answer doesn't help matters, living for the camera, not for peace. Pippa Middleton's life seemed like something out of a fairy tale, because she was poised, beautiful, and smiling just at the right moment. Everyone assumed she was the future queen's sister. She dressed the part, attended all the proper parties, and fulfilled everyone's idealized fantasy of her. Pippa was dying of exhaustion behind her flawless exterior. She went on to explain that she felt like she was being publicly bullied due to the continual criticisms of her appearance, clothing, and life. She felt pressured to maintain an image that wasn't authentic to who she really was on a daily basis. Rumors in the press weren't the only thing. Having said that, while the media had an impact, her personal life was the true downfall. She had no say in the matters taking place behind closed doors and within the royal palace. She was constantly being evaluated, weighed, and watched while also playing the role of the helpful sister. No one ever bothered to ask her how she really felt. Her entire life, including her marriage, became a performance for the benefit of others. She sacrificed her freedom, contentment, and serenity for the image she was compelled to maintain. But eventually that program had to wrap up. Something dreadful was happening in the background. Not only did her public persona shatter when everything fell apart, but her entire world did as well. A brand new beginning in just one outfit. Being famous was something Pippa Middleton aspired to avoid. Never in her wildest dreams did she imagine that one day her life would be turned upside down by the media or the front page. However, history was made the moment she stepped out of the car at the wedding of Kate and Prince William and donned that iconic white bridesmaid dress that enveloped her figure. As soon as the bride was in the spotlight, all eyes turned to her sister. Now Pippa was more than just an attendee, she was the center of attention. By the experts in the field of fashion, it was deemed classy. The rumor mill claimed it was a beautiful sight. Instantly, Pippa went viral on social media, and she became the center of attention. Despite the fact that she was not a member of the royal family, she received more attention than the average woman. That year her dress was the most sought-after item. Images of her quickly went viral. According to designers, she revived the classic, understated wedding style. Although that one incident catapulted her to global fame, it also permanently marred her ability to lead a private life. Everyone in the paparazzi circle started following her. Their investigation included her upbringing, college experiences, and romantic relationships. She was born into the royal family and became Kate's sister, without ever wanting to be a famous royal. As a result of the expectations that came with fame, she never aspired to be famous. Although it appeared pleasant, the attention brought a shadow from which she had been unable to break for years, despite her best efforts. People were going to start getting hurt by that lighting, and it wasn't even remotely annoying. The price of making headlines. Pippa Middleton's every move was suddenly splashed across the front page. The once invisible woman was now the object of intense surveillance. Those who had previously been in the dark about her relationships could now see that her relationship with Alex Loudon, a famous former cricket player, appeared innocent and carefree. Their relationship was in shambles. As soon as paparazzi caught wind of it, rumors of their arguments quickly circulated, and eventually they broke up. Coming in after that was Nico Jackson. He sported the finest clothes one could find in a stockbroker. He appeared to be an ideal match in theory. The news got better when he came along. Even if the relationship didn't work out, the media would label the guy as the one the moment she was seen holding his hand. Their vacations and appearances in public were documented and analyzed through photographs. Nothing ever ended. No one would let Pippa go on dates, because they assumed she would settle down with a husband, host parties, and serve as an example to others. While this was going on, nobody cared about her genuine emotions or desires. Afterwards, James Matthews arrived. Despite his notoriety, he remained reserved and unassuming. At last, she felt like she had discovered someone who could offer her the serenity she craved without demanding her attention. Something far more lonely may have begun after what appeared to be a respite from the wacky. This marriage based on differences was unexpected by Pippa because, despite James's calm demeanor, there was a growing silence. Unlike the media, James Matthews was reserved and unfazed by the whirlwind that was his rise to fame. Pippa Middleton's life has been under intense scrutiny ever since she was the girl who stole the show at the royal wedding. After years of feeling out of the ordinary, James restored her sense of normalcy. They crossed paths on the picture-perfect St. Bart's beaches, where his family owned a five-star hotel. Their bond was like a respite from the tempest. Being on magazine covers and receiving a lot of attention wasn't something he was interested in. For a woman whose every action was being scrutinized, that was thrilling. With their fairy tale-worthy classic dresses, flower arches and A-list guest list, their 2017 wedding was the stuff of dreams. Even though the wedding was going according to plan, something was amiss behind the scenes. Being uncomfortable in public wasn't merely an innate trait of James, it was a barrier he constructed for himself. James drew even closer to hiding when Pippa mastered the art of being the center of attention through her stylish speech and performances. Every effort to become a famous husband was met with his reluctance, and he never showed up to family gatherings or charity galas. It started out as tranquility, but it soon transformed into solitude. She lowered her intensity, abandoned her plans, and isolated herself. She lost sight of who she was as an individual while trying to fit in with his world. The friends noticed that the luster had faded. The woman once confidently strode into rooms. At this point, she appeared to be succumbing to the shadow of another. People still bought into the notion of a love story set in high society, but her inner circle knew the truth. James was stepping away from her as much as from fame. And the worst thing, even though she witnessed it, she was powerless to stop it. Behind closed doors, there was much quiet. Behind closed doors, they were anything but the picture-perfect power couple that the public saw: sophisticated, elegant, and remarkably composed. James Matthews was totally opposed to the world in which Pippa had learned to live. He didn't merely like his personal space, he politely declined requests to attend public events, including those involving his family, and to walk the red carpet. The cameras were like poison to him, so he avoided them at all costs. Rejection was more than simply about fame for Pippa, who had grown accustomed to being in the spotlight without wanting it. She made an initial attempt to meet him at his location. She ceased doing style interviews, and instead sent others to events instead of herself. She also began to dress more conservatively, opting for muted hues instead of her typical vibrant ones. Her once dazzling grin, which won over audiences at Wimbledon and fashion shows, became more reserved and guarded. Those close to her started to make comments about how this wasn't growth or maturation, but rather a retreat, a fading and a dimming of her light. Her once confident demeanor started to erode as her body language grew rigid. To fit into a mold that didn't feel right, Pippa was doing more than just giving in, she was erasing pieces of herself. A pattern on the wall now stood in for the once vivacious woman who used to rule every room. Pippa felt the icy clutches of solitude, while James appeared content with the silence he created. The more she discovered about his world, the stranger it felt to her. Both the woman she was maturing into and her current way of life were foreign to her. But the worst thing, her name was never taken. Piece by piece, she gave it to him in the hopes that it would draw them closer. Upon realizing she was leaving, she felt as though it was too late to turn back. The disappearing smile is captured in photos. Furthermore, the story they recounted only grew more compelling as time went on. The couple, who had been photographed appearing serene and lovely, gradually disappeared from sight. Couples strolling hand in hand through posh neighborhoods of London were no longer casually photographed. All of the vacation photos from sunny places had vanished. They weren't there, instead total quiet. Pippa started attending events on her own, once framed alongside James on red carpets. Now it's just her, with carefully painted smiles and an unsettling absence. After going bold and trendy for a while, her style mellowed out with earth tones, clean silhouettes and less daring pieces. She was losing her luster, and it wasn't simply a fashion shift. That was obvious to everyone who had been following her narrative from the beginning. Her once dazzling appearance had transformed into something eerily pale. Nobody was interviewed, nobody saw the couple, and nobody turned them down. The relationship, which had appeared stable at first, ended slowly and painfully. However, in that stillness, something sinister began to take shape. The stillness was killing me, not the absence of sound. Where had James gone? Became a common question, even though no one knew for sure what had happened. By the way, why did Pippa appear to be carrying it solo? A rift in the family, the Vogue Williams issue. After that, there was the fight that everyone felt but nobody could see coming. James Matthews is the paternal link between Pippa Middleton and Vogue Williams. There has never been a major altercation between the two that made headlines. However, those familiar with the family's situation could tell something was amiss. At public events, people wore icy smiles, and in family photos they seemed noticeably distant. Another example is the podcast episodes in which Vogue casually and cuttingly said that some people are too perfect, egotistical, or preoccupied with their looks. The insiders didn't require her to mention names, so she refrained from doing so. The jabs, tone and timing made it very clear who it was targeting. Although it was frigid, it wasn't a genuine battle. A woman who was already struggling to maintain her marriage and reputation took another hit. Unlike the Middletons, the Matthews family reveled in the spotlight, so they didn't mind getting their hands dirty. Spencer Matthews and Vogue were both well received by the public, despite the rumors and stories to the contrary. But Pippa wasn't designed for mayhem like this. For a long time she had made a concerted effort to control her reputation, tell the truth and maintain decorum. She couldn't discuss the incident in public, and was now embroiled in a fight she hadn't started. Pippa encountered a new challenge as the passive-aggressive insults escalated. How to defend oneself when speechless. The marriage that came to an end in silence. There were no public declarations of divorce, no leaks of court documents, no emotional interviews, and no confrontations between paparazzi outside of the residences of the disputing parties. However, the disintegration had begun, albeit subtly. It all started when Pippa quit accompanying James to social events like charity balls, royal parties and society weddings. Eventually the solo performances were more of a staple in the schedule than an occasional treat. It appeared as though James, who was formerly regarded as her steady and composed companion, had vanished from public view, both from her perspective and the perspective of the cameras. Silence prevailed in lieu of any kind of statement or acknowledgement, the painful kind of silence that won't reveal your problems. The couple who exemplified contemporary noble poise had drifted apart, no longer even related beyond a shared name. The fact that it went unreported by the media is peculiar. It was unnecessary. The story was already being told by the clothing choices, blank looks and body language. There was an eerie silence that seemed to surround any photo of Pippa attending an event solo. Rumors circulated, but no evidence was ever presented. Nothing could have conveyed more than that stillness. It manifested itself in refusing to do things, acting stiffly in meetings, and going without a ring. Since no one remained to dispute it, it could not be denied. As time passed, the symptoms became increasingly apparent. The end of the marriage was obvious even as everyone awaited the official announcement. It wasn't a clattering explosive collapse, but rather the gradual lowering of a sturdy structure. Pippa was not keeping anything from anyone. It was too delicate and hurtful for her to speak out loud about the truth she was dealing with. Rising once more devoid of the imperial radiance, Pippa is finally deciding to be authentic now that she is no longer the center of attention, which she never desired. Put an end to your never-ending quest for perfection. There will be no more juggling the competing demands of a royal identity and a profound yearning for peace. She's finally stepping out of the shadows and into her own life, free from the constraints of act, and she must do it even if it means letting go of her past identity. Even if Pippa Middleton never says a word about the events that unfolded on camera, she has already accomplished it through her actions, clothing choices and sudden disappearance. When she remained silent, she never seemed weak. It was as subdued as a woman reclaiming her voice. Is Pippa's decision to abandon everything, something you can relate to. Leave your thoughts in the comments and help spread the word by liking, sharing and following this page for more non-newsworthy stories.